Hi everyone, welcome to Eco Learning Classes. This is Professor Geeta Mahesh. Dear students, let us discuss Part B, Indian Economic Development, the first chapter, Indian Economy on the Eve of Independence. Dear students, let us discuss low level of economic development under the colonial rule. India had an independent economy before the advent of British rule. Though agriculture was the main source of livelihood for most of the people in India, yet country's economy was characterized by various kinds of manufacturing activities. India was particularly well known for its handicraft industries in the field of cotton and silk textiles, metal and precious stoneworks, etc. These products enjoyed a worldwide market because of the reputation of fine quality of material used and high standard of craftsmanship seen in all these imports from India. Dear students, during colonial rule, economic policies were formulated by colonial government in India and were more concerned with respect to the protection and promotion of economic interests of their own home country. That means they formulated economic policies in such a way that will protect and promote British economy instead of development of Indian economy. Such policies brought about a fundamental changes in the structure of Indian economy. Because of these economic policies, there was a fundamental changes in the structure of Indian economy. They just transferred Indian economy in the form of net supplier of raw material. So India has become just a supplier of raw material and consumer of finished industrial products from Britain. So we are exporting raw material, and importing from British finished product. We are importing finished product. So employment opportunities will be created more in British, and we are exporting raw material at a cheaper rate, and we are importing finished product which will be costlier than the raw material. So it will be a burden for an economy because exports will be less, imports will be less, and what happens, the flow of money or wealth from our country to Britain will be more. Dear students, the colonial government never made a sincere attempts to estimate India's national and per capita income, which is very essential to know the economic status of any nation. But in India, some individuals made an attempt to find or to measure such incomes, that is national income and per capita income. But their attempts yielded conflicting and inconsistent results. Among notable estimators, you can see Dadabhai Naroji, William Digby, Findlay Shiraz, V.K.R.V. Rao, R.C. Desai. It was V.K.R.V. Rao whose estimates of national and per capita incomes during the colonial period were considered very significant. Dear students, let us discuss agriculture sector during colonial period. During colonial period, Indian economy remained fundamentally an agrarian because 85% of Indians population lived mostly in villages and derived livelihood directly or indirectly from agriculture. Despite being an occupation of such a large population, agriculture sector continued to experience stagnation. Why? What is the reason for stagnation? Because various land settlement, particularly zamindari system, was implemented. You can question, how was the zamindari system of land settlement responsible for stagnation of Indian agriculture? The zamindari system of revenue settlement was introduced by the colonial government. The British government or colonial government introduced. The various reasons for zamindari system of land settlement were responsible for this stagnation. The first point, the zamindars were recognized as the permanent owners of agricultural lands, or the owners of the soil. Zamindars were to pay the fixed sum to the government. So zamindars, as zamindar who has taken a zamindari powers, they have to pay some fixed amount to British government. And zamindars were absolutely free to extract as much as possible from the tiller of the soil. Due to the expansion of aggregate area under cultivators, the various land settlements, low level of technology, and even lack of irrigational facilities are responsible for stagnation in agriculture. And because of this reason, agriculture could not develop and it remained stagnation. And even negligible usage of fertilizers led to low level of agricultural productivity in India. Of course, some evidence of relatively high yield cash crops in certain areas of the country due to commercialization of agriculture. But this could hardly help of the farmers in improving their economic conditions. Dear students, let us discuss industrial sector during colonial period. The colonial government adopted deindustrialization. Due to deindustrialization, Indian handicraft industries were declined. Why they adopted deindustrialization? Because of two reasons. The one thing, the primary motto behind deindustrialization is to get raw material from India at a cheaper rate and to make Indian economy a just exporter of raw material to British industries. The second thing is Britishers manufactured goods they wanted to sell at a higher price in India. So Indian should be a exporter of raw material and consumers of Britishers manufactured items. And even they followed the discrimination tariff policies. So here when India is exporting raw material, they can export without any tax. And when we are importing finished product from Britain, no tax. But when we are exporting handicraft items from India to other countries, they used to impose a heavy tax because they don't want development of Indian handicraft. Even though it is world famous, they wanted to discourage development of handicraft industries. They wanted Indian economy to be a market for Britishers' product. The loop-sided modern industrial structure. The Britishers neither permitted modernization of industries nor they did encourage the growth of heavy industries in India. India saw, that is in 1850 to 55, India saw first cotton mill and jute mill and coal mines. You can see here in 1850-55, India has saw the establishment of first cotton mill, jute mill and even coal mines. At the end of the 19th century, India saw 194 cotton mills and 36 jute mills. And cotton mills were established in the western parts of Maharashtra and Gujarat, and jute mills were concentrated in Bengal. And in 1907 Tesco means, what is the expansion for Tesco? Tesco is nothing but a Tata Iron and Steel Company, and it is incorporated in August 1907 in Jamshedpur. The capital goods industries were lacking in India, and when there is a lack of iron and steel industries in India, definitely we are forced to depend on Britain for the supply of capital goods and heavy equipments. The limited operation of public sector. Public sector was confined only with respect to railways, power generation, communication, ports, etc. Dear students, as we discussed earlier, the primary motto behind this policy of deindustrialization was to reduce India to the status of mere exporter of important raw material for upcoming modern industries in Britain, to turn India to a market for finished products manufactured by industries in Britain. The rate of growth of industrial sector was low, as no help was being provided to these industries by colonial government. Colonial government enforced discriminatory tariff policies, which allowed free export of raw material from India and free import of finished goods from British industries to India. Decline of traditional handicraft industries created a massive unemployment in India. The fall in the supply of local made goods created a demand for import of British goods, much to their advantage. So what I told, the Tesco, okay, the Tesco, what is the expansion? Tata Iron and Steel was incorporated in 1907 and it was established in Jamshedpur. And capital goods industries, if you consider, the capital goods industry means industries which can produce a machine tools which are in turn used to producing the articles for current consumption. The traditional handicraft industries were ruined under British rule because India could not develop a sound industrial base under colonial rule. Even as the country's world-famous handicraft industries declined due to no corresponding modern industrial base was allowed to come up. Take a pride of the place so long enjoyed by our handicraft industries. Indian markets were full of manufactured goods from Britain which were available at a low price. Indian handicraft started losing both domestic market as well as international market. Ultimately, handicraft industries declined. Dear students, India was an important trading nation since ancient time. The restrictive policies pursued by the colonial government absolutely affected the structure, composition, and volume of Indian foreign trade. India was known for cotton, tea, and silk. Dear students, even though India was an important trading nation from ancient time, India was known for silk, cotton cloth, and even it is known for tea and famous handicraft industries. During colonial period, if you consider the composition of India's trade, India became an exporter of primary products like raw silk, cotton, wool, sugar, indigo, jute, etc. and an importer of finished consumer goods like cotton, silk, woolen clothes, capital goods like light machinery. Volume of India's export, if we observe, more than its imports, the exports were more and there was a large export surplus. This refers to countries we are trading with. Britain maintained a monopoly over India's exports and imports. So during colonial period, exports were greater than imports. There was an export surplus and monopoly. Britain maintained the monopoly over both India's exports and imports. More than half of India's foreign trade was restricted to Britain, while the rest was allowed with a few countries like China, Ceylon, that is nothing but a Sri Lanka, Persia is nothing but a Iran. Suez Canal was opened in 1869 and this has reduced the cost and time of transportation, made access to Indian market easier for Britishers. In other words, exploitation of Indian market was now easier for Britishers. Dear students, what do you mean by drain of Indian wealth? Even though our exports are greater than imports, so there is a greater export surplus. That means the India's foreign trade generated a huge export surplus, but this surplus came at a cost of country's economy as it led to drain of Indian economy. What happened or how they have used this export surplus? They used this export surplus for making a payment for the expenses incurred by an office set up by colonial government in Britain. So in the form of salary, again it will go to Britain. The expenses on war fought by British government. So Britishers were taking part in the World War and whatever the expenses they were incurring, and that was made out of the export surplus of Indian economy and import of invisible items. The services whatever we receive from the British government, so that we are making payment for importing that invisible items, again the money will go back to Britain. So this we call it as drain of Indian wealth. Dear students, even though when there is an export surplus in India, but if you see the Indian market, there were several essential commodities were severe crisis. That means scarcity of commodities you can see in Indian market or domestic market during colonial period, especially food grains, clothes, kerosene, etc. were scarcely available in the domestic market. Furthermore, this export surplus did not result in any flow of gold or silver into the Indian economy. Because of all this, we call the drain of Indian wealth to Britain. Now let us discuss demographic profile of India during colonial period. What do you mean by demographic profile? Means the growth of population. The growth of population is studied under three stages. Stage 1, where birth rate and death rate, both birth rate and death rate will be high. Both birth rate and death rate will be and because of this the growth rate of population will be low. In the second stage, birth rate continued to increase but death rate will decrease. So the growth rate of population will be very high. The growth rate of population will be high. If you consider third stage, birth rate will be less and even death rate is also low. So on the basis of this we can explain the economic status of a country. If an economy is in the first stage, the economy is backward or low economic development. If it is a developing economy, then it will be in the second stage, and almost all developed countries will be in the third stage. Let us discuss this demographic condition of India during colonial period. If we observe the demographic condition during British rule, that suggests that the features of a backward economy. The various details about population was collected for the first time during 1881 through census before 1921. India was in the first stage of demographic transition. The second stage of transition of India, nor the rate of population growth at this stage was very high. The year 1921 is described as year of Great Divide because after 1921 the population grew continuously and rapidly. Dear students, now let us discuss what were the conditions and why, after seeing the demographic condition during British rule, all suggest that the features of a backward economy. During British rule, the birth rate was high and even death rate is also high. Birth rate was very high at 48 and death rate was 40 per 1000 persons. High infant mortality rate. What is infant mortality rate? Number of death among infants, or the death of a child before celebrating its first birth. We call it as infant mortality rate. And this infant mortality rate was also very high. So it was about 218 per 1000 live births. We are considering 1000 live births. Low life expectancy. It means, what do you mean by life expectancy? Means the number of years that a person on an average expected to live. So it was very low, and the expected number of years that a person live is 32 years. The mass illiteracy was there and it was about 84%, and the standard of living was very low during colonial period. Dear students, now let us discuss India's pre-independence occupational structure. What do you mean by occupational structure? Means distribution of workforce among different sectors of the economy. If you consider sectors of the economy, we have three types of sectors. One is primary sector, that is nothing but an agricultural sector. Second one is secondary sector, or you can consider industrial sector. The third one is tertiary sector, that is nothing but a service sector. Predominance of agricultural sector, that means lion's share of workforce is depending on agriculture. You can see here 72% of people were depending on agriculture. Remaining 10% on industrial sector and 18% on service sector. So because of that reason, we consider agriculture is the predominant during colonial period. The growing regional variation. in states of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, here you can see Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, West Bengal, the dependency of workforce on agriculture sector declined. So dependence on agriculture from these states, you can see Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, West Bengal has decreased. Whereas in the states of Orissa, Rajasthan, Punjab, it has increased. Dear students, now let us discuss infrastructure in India during colonial period. During British rule, some basic infrastructures such as railways, ports, water transport, post and telegraphs were developed. However, the real motive behind this development was not to provide a basic amenities to people, but to serve own interests. So to serve Britishers' interest, they have provided infrastructural facilities or basic amenities to Indian people. To have control and administration over vast Indian territory, they needed infrastructural facilities. To earn profit through foreign trade, to move the goods and people from one place to another place, they wanted railways which will increase the fast and as well as it will be a cheaper. So they have developed railways in India. To create an opportunity for profitable investment of Britain funds in India, the infrastructural facilities were the good area where they can get a more profit. To mobilize army within India and carrying out raw material through roads to nearest railway station or to the port to send it to Britain, they wanted infrastructural facilities like railways, water transport, road transport. So because of this reason, they have developed infrastructural facilities in India during colonial period. Let us discuss the positive contributions made by British in India. Yes, there were some positive contributions made by Britishers in India. They are as follows. You can see commercialization of agriculture implies a good breakthrough in agriculture and resulted in self-reliance in food grains production. So because of commercialization of agriculture, it is helpful for Indian farmers and even for India to become a self-reliance with respect to food grains. And it helped even for some farmers to increase their economic conditions. Development of infrastructure like railways, roadways generated a new opportunities for economic and social growth, and they have developed huge employment opportunities in India. Railways promoted commercialization of agriculture through long distance movement of goods, that means from one place to another place when it is easy for you to move, and at the same time when it is cheaper, definitely you can produce goods not for local market, even for national market. The other positive contributions made by British in India are supply of food and essentials could be made available to drought affected area through transportation. It helped integrating the nation, and even it provided employment opportunities to so many people, and it helped even the development of industries in India. Dear students, if you like, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.